1874, the podcast with Dan Bardell.
Hello, welcome to 1874, the podcast. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by the Athletics' Jacob Tanswell, as we're going to dissect Everton 0, Aston Villa 0 today. This show is in association with NordVPN, and you can grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to 1874.io/NordVPN. And if you do that, you'll get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan, and you'll also get 4 months for free. It's completely risk-free because Nord offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so help out the channel and help yourselves out as well if you're interested in that deal and use our discount code. Jacob, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, got home at a reasonable time last night from Everton, and obviously it's a nice, fresh Monday morning, and I'm feeling good.
Good for a journey. A 2 o'clock kick-off on a Sunday, I'd say.
They are good, but with our deadlines, it's on a Saturday, give a quick rundown. On Saturday, you've got till 10 o'clock on the Sunday morning to file your piece, where for the Sunday game, because they want it out on Monday, you've got if it's a 2 o'clock kickoff, you've got to file it by 6. So It's a bit of a shorter turnaround. So they've not been ideal, but I think more Villa games that have been 2 o'clock, the more I'm getting used to it.
You enjoy your Saturday a bit more. Though you're free on your Saturday, I assume, free to just sit and watch football. That's all I did yesterday. In fairness, just sat and watched football all day. But yeah, interesting to see how it all works. And talking of articles and deadlines and stuff, you've got a piece out this morning about Kamara, but your club badge piece last week. Our podcast did well talking about the club badge last week, but it sounds like your article did as well on The Athletic.
Yeah, it seemed to cut through with the fans, and it highlighted what a relevant piece it was. I guess that there's unhappiness, across some sections of the fan base, and rightly so. And I think it would have been not me doing my journalistic duties if I didn't report it. However, even if there was criticism, or even if it would cause me issue or the company issues, but no, it's been really well received, and I think it was an issue that needed covering, and I'm glad that it was.
Yeah, you covered it really, really well. I've got to say it was a really, really good read. And Chris Hecker's responded by doing an interview with the Sunday Times instead of the Athletic. So I had a little read of that yesterday. Not sure I'm on the same page as Chris Heck at the moment with stuff, but we'll move on for that. But yeah, thank you to everyone that watched and listened to our podcast last week. Jacob did a good explainer on there about what's happened as well. And it's an important subject. Some people will say stop moaning. We're top 3 in the Premier League. There's more important things going on. Just because things are good on the pitch doesn't mean that things that are happening off the pitch should be got away with. And I think the way they've approached this badge thing has been absolutely terrible. And I'll continue to bang the drum on social media around that. Let's talk about the game then yesterday, Jacob. Managed to do 5 minutes on it, I think. Everton 0, Aston Villa 0. I actually thought we played quite well. I thought Everton were very, very resolute, very hard to break through. Very physical team. The midfield, just the land of the giants in there. And I thought they defended really well. And every time we did come forward, they put bodies on the line and were solid. So I don't think it's a bad point. But I don't think that's the popular opinion on social media. How, as a neutral, someone who, you do care what Villa do, but you're obviously not a Villa fan. What's your synopsis on whether it's a good point or not?
I think it'll be a good point depending on how Villa get on in the next couple of weeks. It's one of those games where I just felt frustrated even towards the end. I just thought Villa have got into this habit recently where they're just riding the home crowd up, especially away from home. So I know Emi Martinez does it well and he's always used to that, but I just feel there's a few times where tempers flew out. It's just unnecessary. It happened at Brentford. They obviously managed to win that game, but there's times where Villa are just giving away silly fouls or making cheap decisions on the ball where he just gets the crowd up, and it's not the control that Emery wants, or even getting involved in these tussles over the corner flag. I'm just thinking, okay, fair enough, you've this anger, but it's just Villa can't get into a rhythm, and it's just like stop start. Plenty of fouls like we saw at Wolves, and it just seems like there's this theme now where opposition teams are doing it quite successfully in breaking up Villa's flow. And the only time Villa, I thought, were coming into the game and had any flow was probably after the first 50 minutes of the first half, when I think Leon Bailey went close when Pickford made the save. Moreno obviously had the goal disallowed. And that was the only time when there was uninterrupted play and Villa were able to get the ball and pin Everton back. But then Villa would make a silly mistake where a back pass might be overhit, or little tempters for Calvert-Lewin when he's pressing, and all of a sudden it gets the crowd up, because it didn't take long for the Goodison Park crowd to fall flat. So it just felt unnecessary that Villa are kind of just riding the crowd up through their own mistakes, and that's the frustration for me after yesterday's game.
Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence that the referee was the same referee as the Brentford game. I believe the game kind of followed the same pattern. I know we won that game, but we do seem to get more involved in the hustle and bustle than we do under other referees. It seems there was a lot of it was disjointed against Brentford as well. I thought the ref was absolutely atrocious yesterday. I just thought he had no control over the game. He felt like he was booking Villa players and giving fouls for absolutely everything, not the other way around with Everton. Look, Everton are a physical side. I'm not knocking them at all. I actually quite like the way that they go about business. And, Sean Dyche, to his credit, as would have had them 12th in the league had they not had 10 points deducted. So I think he's doing a good job there. And there's a lot I like about Everton. But I do think they crossed the line a couple of times yesterday. I do think there was a 100% a penalty in there. Tarkowski on Moussa Diarra. In the Manchester United game afterwards, Wan-Bissaka got booked for doing a similar thing. In fact, it was quite less. I thought less force than what happened with Tarkowski in the penalty area, and it gets given as a free kick in that game, and Wan-Bissaka gets booked. I feel like if that happened outside the area, the ref would give a free kick all day, and they'd look at it as a potential red card. But because it's in the penalty area, it almost felt like they didn't want to do it. But honestly, I'm not biased in any way at all. I thought that was a penalty. Did you?
Yeah, as soon as I saw it, I thought penalty straight away. And, people around me, because it's a very cramped press box, they looked at me from the Everton side of things. And, no way. But I just looked at it looked in real time. I thought, he's caught Diaby, and that was a penalty. And the problem is the referee set himself the tone early on in the game, and he gave himself nowhere to go, because that Ollie Watkins yellow card, I didn't want to tweet. I was just like, what else is he supposed to do? He's basically been penalised for jumping and winning a header over Tarkowski. I know Tarkowski had some blood, but I think that set the tone. If that's has a lower threshold for fouls and yellow cards, then he's got nowhere to go with, in the second half of the game. So I thought that was a penalty. I agree with you, Dan. And yeah, the referee was poor, but I thought the referee last week at Middlesbrough was poor. It's up to Villa.
I did too.
It's up to Villa now to actually just calm it down. You said poise. You said better quality to take the refereeing decisions and these 50-50 battles out of the game. I think it turned into too much of a fight ball towards the end. It wasn't the football that Emery would have wanted, and that's why the referee had such a big part to play in it.
I still always was sat there thinking, I think there'll be a goal in this, and I think it'll be us, a little bit like the Middlesbrough game last week. I always fancy us to score, because obviously we've got a brilliant record of scoring under Emery. That must only be the fourth time possibly that we haven't scored under Emery in the Premier League. But in recent weeks, probably the last 5 games maybe, one thing that's been lacking from Villa, and we were talking about this before we came up, decision making, final ball. It's not what it was in the first part of the season, is it?
No, it's not. And it's, Villa tend to have a lot of their possession in the defensive middle third. So when they do get into the final third, it's for a change of gear, and they can then really attack with purpose. But to attack with purpose, you've got to be really finesse, really fine-tuned. And in those moments, I don't think Villa... Well, there's one occasion where, obviously, I alluded to the Leon Bailey shot earlier, where there's a few nice passes between McGinn, Moreno, Douglas Luiz, I think it was, and then it ended up with Leon Bailey getting a shot away. And that was the time I thought, okay, Villa had some real good quality there. But it does seem like misplaced passes. I thought John McGinn was guilty of that early on in the game yesterday. Douglas Luiz as well is trying to hit these crossfield passes, and they're getting intercepted, and then it means Villa are out of shape in the field. It's not what you expect from the Villa early on in the season. I knew Villa, they're getting tired and stuff like that, but they've had a good time between games, and this is the quality. This is not talking about the physical exertion. This is the quality of the game, and it just feels like slightly lower than they were. And probably, I guess, Moussa Diaby kind of characterises that, doesn't he? Because early on in the season, he looked like a thoroughbred racehorse, didn't he? Really sharp, everything was on point, and now he's just toiling a little bit.
Yeah, he got dropped, didn't he, for the big games against Manchester City and Arsenal. From what I've heard, he wasn't very happy about that, and he's really not been the same since. Maybe a lack of confidence, because we know he's a really high level footballer. Moussa Diaby, he was brilliant in the first stages of the season, but when he has played in recent weeks, he hasn't looked himself. The bit that surprised me was that he took Diaby and Bailey off at the same time. It kind of took out the pace from Villa's team. I thought the game was crying out for Tielemans. In fairness, I thought maybe he'd be the one to unlock something and make a clever pass. But were you surprised that Unai Emery took off 2 players with real pace out of Villa's team?
I think so. But if you look at the passing networks from the last couple of games, Diaby and Watkins are barely getting the ball. Diaby. How many times do you see Diaby receiving a half turn and drive out the centre back? If you look at the reverse fixture at Everton against Everton at home, I think 3 or 4 times in the first half, he would get the ball and drive at Tarkowski, where, this game he barely got the ball. But I can kind of see why Emery took both of them off, because it was quite clear that, right, we're not going to play through Everton now, or we haven't got the quality. We're going to get the ball out wide through Matty Cash and Moreno. We're going to have 2 up top in John Duran and Watkins, and it almost paid off. John Duran
very unlucky.
He came close a few times, didn't he? So if you're playing that way, where you're trying to get the ball out wide and cross it, then you probably don't need Diaby and Bailey as much, because they're probably players that aren't as good physically in the air, or as good at crosses from both sides. So yeah, I can see why they've done it, but Diaby needs to, hopefully he can use his break now to come back and really come back and get back into his rhythm.
Were you surprised by the team selection as well? Because Cash obviously scored last week, didn't start. He really seems to want to play Konsa at right back at the moment. Again, we were talking before we came on, and I said that potentially the reason he did that this week was because he didn't want Kamara to be coming back and building up in the back three because of how robust Everton's midfield is. He didn't want to pull him out of that midfield battle, which is probably fair. But do you think if it had been a different team, do you think Cash maybe would have played and we would have built up with Kamara in the back three?
I think so. Emery alluded to how tall Everton were also before the game, so I think that having another centre back would have helped with the aerial duels. Winning the long balls, second balls, corners and stuff. I was quite surprised that Cash didn't play anyway. I thought he might have played instead of Diaby. Moving Bailey up top with Watkins, and then Cash on the right wing, kind of right back way. Because when Cash doesn't play. You can say what you want about Cash's qualities and whether he's good enough to be at the high end of the Premier League. He does offer width, and when there was a period where Bailey and Diaby came off and Villa had no width on that right side, I think Konsa wasn't sure whether to overlap McGinn. So I'm surprised Cash didn't play. I think Cash just gives you a bit more balance from both sides, rather than just all purposely attacking down Moreno's side, which it was in the first half. But I'm not surprised he went with 3 centre backs, although a part of me just thinks every Konsa's so good at centre back. He's one of the best players, best centre backs in the Premier League this season. I think he's kind of wasted at receiving a ball and doing all his defending on the touchline.
Because when we're moving Konsa to right back at the moment, if most Villa fans were to pick our best team, I think it would probably be Konsa and Pau Torres at centre back. We don't have either of them there at the moment. I never think the high line works as well when Konsa's at right back. He doesn't seem as, I'm not digging him at all, but he doesn't seem as sure about the movements and the timing of things when he's at right back. There was a moment in the first half when he was looking along the line, looking over his shoulder, and I felt like he was struggling to work out what he was supposed to be doing. Pau Torres has been a huge miss, but then when you take Konsa out from there as well, those two are the best at building it from the back as well. I think Carlos has got a good ping on him, but I don't think him and Longley are as good at building it from the back as the other two are. So maybe that's a factor as to why we haven't looked so fluid. Passing hasn't been there for me either. We were so sharp against Manchester City. I remember pinging the ball around, like moving the ball around quickly. Every pass was spot on. That Arsenal goal, no one had to break stride in that goal to score it. And since then, I just don't think our passing has been the same.
No, I think you're right then. But the few occasions where Diego Carlos does progress the ball, did it into McGinn yesterday. I I don't think that next phase is the same either in terms of
Yeah, that's fair.
getting on the half term and playing. I think Longley, he carries the ball quite well, but I never see him
Yeah,
really.
there's nothing wrong with him, is there? But he's just not Baldorris.
No, exactly. And the issue with Konza as well on that right back is he sometimes overcompensates by tucking too close into Carlos because he's just naturally a centre back. And also, when the ball does go over Longley or Carlos, Konza's too far away to make one of those brilliant recovery runs to make the slide tackle or knock the attacker off balance when he's through goal. So it just feels like, okay, I can see why Konza's there. But I thought it'd be more of a temporary measure, like every 10 games he might play there. But the fact he's playing it so regularly, you just kind of think, can Villa just sort out this issue a different way?
Yeah, and the high line did get breached at one point, but luckily for us, Martinez was there. A good double save, really. In the end, that's what he's there for, isn't he? Every game, he'll do something like that, Martinez. That one-on-one save to kind of stand up so long and still manage to get down with his foot and make the save. It's just world-class goalkeeping. And I still watch so many other teams that are supposed to be bigger clubs than Villa and look at their goalkeeping situation and I just laugh. Because I think, how have we got the best goalkeeper in the world and all these other teams are scrambling around for a goalkeeper? He's just absolutely brilliant.
John McGinn was talking after the game yesterday and he said he was directly behind Calvert-Lewin when he went through a goal and he thought to himself, why has Emi left so much space on to his right? And as it turned out, it's because Emi was basically baiting Calvert-Lewin to do that finish, to go in that corner, and at the last minute, Emi backed himself to get across and save it. And you see a lot of goalkeepers, they go into ground easily. Onana's done it loads of times this season, where Martinez stands strong, he stays up. And what's funny or quite relevant is, do you remember the Carabao Cup game against Everton where Calvert-Lewin scored that goal, 1-on-1?
Yeah.
I think it was Robin Olsen goal, wasn't it, at the time?
Yeah, it was Olsen.
And you see the difference there. You think Olsen goes to ground, he'd go earlier, where Martinez just waits a split second, stays big, and he saves a goal. I think he had an XG of 0.7, and Calvert-Lewin, he hasn't scored for 12 games now, so it felt like this was more of a big moment for him than it was for Martinez. And you saw the confidence of who was willing to just bide their time a little bit, wait for the other one to make the first move. And Martinez's save was fantastic. And then to get back up and a few seconds later to get down to Garner's shot. I don't think his agility gets enough credit. I know he's a big commanding goalkeeper, but he's very nimble and I think he's just a brilliant keeper and he's such a safe pair of hands.
To me, he's the best goalkeeper in the league. I know Alisson is right up there, Edison probably too as well. They're probably better with their feet. Martinez is very, very good with his feet, but as an all-round goalkeeper, I just think he's better than those two. I genuinely wouldn't swap him for any goalkeeper in the world, and that's such a fantastic place to be in. He's so good. The clean sheet is obviously good news. I think we've kept too many clean sheets in recent weeks, and we now kept two in a row. But hopefully that will bring us back some solidarity, because Villa last season were built on clean sheets, and it's not been something that we've been as brilliant at this season, although I do think there's caveats in that Torres had to come in a little bit earlier than Villa would have wanted him to. When Mings got injured, now Torres is injured. Conte's been playing right back. There's been a lot going on in that back line, whereas last season it was pretty consistent towards the end with the personnel that were playing there. So a couple of clean sheets for Emi will do him good. But I thought the first goal yesterday would be absolutely pivotal. I thought whoever scored the first goal would go on and win the game, but unfortunately, not unfortunately for Villa, that first goal just didn't come, did it, people? I'm sat here thinking I thought we played pretty well. I don't think it was a bad display by any stretch of the imagination, but then I can also see the point of view that we didn't really create too much, and that's probably what's missing at the moment. And we looked at the bench, we're back to 2 goalkeepers on the bench, 8 subs. There wasn't much to change, it really was there. We've been hurt a little bit by injuries at the moment, but then so are many teams.
Yeah, and also the players that are on the bench, Zaniolo's on loan, he's not been playing much. John Duran, we talked about him last week, and Yuri Tillemans is half fit. So it's not like these guys are ready, they're ready to go. You can bring them straight in. And obviously you've got Dendoncker as well. So there's issues there, but Villa I think, a team that just needs that second boost, really. They need to get their second wind almost. They're kind of flagging in games, looking a little bit short of ideas. But at the same time, like we said, you asked me earlier whether it's a good point. In these type of games where they do look quite short of ideas, it's important they win these games. Even when Kamara was suspended, for example, and Villa missed him hugely. They only lost one game. They got a point against Sheffield United, but they then managed to eke it out against Burnley. So they're still getting jobs done. They're still being quite efficient, but they need to get that second win if they're going to stay in the Champions League spaces.
I've been quite surprised that Zaniolo, he scored that goal against Sheffield United. It seems that since then he's actually getting less minutes than he was previously after that goal, whereas I thought that goal would have done him the world of good. I wouldn't have minded seeing him playing off Watkins. I think you said it before we came on as well. Like when he's playing wide, he's almost too wide. He kind of strikes me as a player that you want in central areas. I know the wide player usually comes in to make the box, but I'd just like to see him in that second striker role at some point, especially when it's not really happening for Diaby. You know, when we've got so many players out, if he isn't going to get a game now, he's probably never going to get a game. Whereas at the start, when I didn't feel he was fully fit. Felt like he played 5-6 games in a row, but he doesn't seem to be able to get near it at the moment. Do you think there's a reason for that?
That's the issue, isn't it? I think if Emery's going to go with a second striker that's not Diaby, he's looking at John McGinn really, and Bailey obviously making those runs inside it, that's why Zaniolo's behind it. But another reason, which is important to know, is Matty Cash isn't playing either, so Zaniolo's having to stay wider because Konsa's not going to overlap. And it means even if Zaniolo does play on that right, he's not going to be able to drift in and have someone, on his right shoulder overlapping him. So Cash is not playing, as in turn meant Zaniolo's not playing on that right wing either. But it is strange, really. Zaniolo scored as well, didn't he, in the Conference League? I thought, so he's getting a few more goals now, but it just feels like it's not quite happening for him. And when I see that him on that right wing, it's an instant yesterday where he got the ball on the right wing, I just thought, no, he's not really a right wing. He's not the guy that's going to beat someone at the byline and cross it. He's got to be in those central areas where he can utilise his long shooting or threading passes through. And right now, there's no space for him there because Emery either likes Diaby there or, failing that, he likes McGinn there.
I think when Tielemans is back, I think he's probably got that second striker role sewn up at the moment, hasn't he? He was doing well before he got injured. It felt like he was getting some rhythm and really showing what a good footballer is. I think when everyone's fit, we're not going to say Buendia and Mings probably this season, but when we do start to get players back, I think I'd be picking Tielemans in that second striker role at the moment on form.
It depends how quickly Tielemans gets back, because there's a theory at Leicester that he would take a long time and a lot of runner games to even get to his physical peak. And you've probably seen it earlier in the season. The difference between Tielemans at the start towards Tielemans at the end before he got his injury was huge in terms of just his physicality, his sharpness as well. So it depends on how he comes back. But there is that second striker that next to Watkins that is up for grabs. And if you had to ask me, I'd probably go for Leon Bailey right now. I think he can offer similar to Diaby, and he's in better form. And then you can put Cash on that right wing to make sure Villa keep their balance. But Zaniolo, he's coming towards the end, or he's in the last few months of his loan deal, and there's a decision to be made.
Yeah, I said that I didn't think we should do anything in January. I'm starting to slightly go against that. I still don't think that we will, unless we were to shift someone, but I don't think that we'll be shifting anyone. Chambers on the bench yesterday? I've got a feeling.
No, Chambers wasn't on the bench.
Is there a reason for that? Because we obviously 8 subs, 2 goals.
Yeah, I'm doing a piece on that actually. He's basically been told he can go. So I think they're engineering a move on him leaving now.
But maybe if he's to go, that might free up a space to bring a player in a squad registration place, which Chambers hasn't done anything this season. Let's be frank, he's not part of the plans. He had a really bad game in Europe. It's almost like that scared Emery into putting him in, because even when we made wholesale changes, Chambers has not been anywhere near it. He's still been on the bench. So if he's going to go, maybe that frees up to bring in a right back. But I'm just thinking at the moment, if Zaniolo's not involved, not coming on, do we need another kind of attacking option? But I know that's going to be a difficult one to get in. I don't know. What do you think?
I wouldn't mind just seeing an academy lad come on. I know Emery's.
Well, no, the academy lad's getting on the bench.
That's a strange thing for me. You put 2 goalkeepers on the bench. You've done it in a few weeks ago, and you've got these guys in the under 21s. Tommy O'Reilly. I know Omari Kellerman's injured. I just think one of them on the bench. I know that's not Emery's style. He likes everything to be methodical, and he likes players to train with the first team a long time. I know his principles and things like that, but I just think sometimes when everything's a little bit flat, you just need that bit of unpredictability and a bit of energy of youth, I guess. And just having someone like that would be really good. And who knows, if Omari Kellerman didn't get injured, maybe he would have played. But even Tim as well. I thought it was a really good opportunity for him to start last week at Middlesbrough. And Emery really likes him. I asked him about Kamara's absence last week, and he said Tim can do exactly what Kamara can do. We just need to keep. I really believe in him. I just thought, okay, let's now see it on the pitch. But it's Emery's obviously option and choice. But it would be nice to see an academy lad on the bench sometimes.
I can't remember if it was you that told me this, but I heard from somewhere. Someone has told me, may have been you, may not have been you, that Arogbenham is not going to be going out on loan. That he's going to be kept, and they want him in the first team squad. So it is surprising that, because no disrespect to Dendoncker, who I really really like, and he's been a good squad player for Villa since he arrived at the club. Arogbenham's more mobile, isn't he? So you would think that he would be a better fit for what Emery's trying to do than Dendoncker.
Yeah, and also he's better on the ball. He's more progressive on the ball, and that's what Emery wants. But to caveat that, he was injured in pre-season. I think that was a key time for Emery to really embed his principles. And I do feel if he was fully fit from the outset, then he would have played a lot more. And also, you got to think about Dendoncker. If a good option or a good offer comes in for him right now,
he goes.
He goes. So in terms of long-term vision, Tim's got more of an option than Leander, but it's just really trusting him in these games, and that's why I was hoping he'd play against Middlesbrough, and maybe he can get some minutes at Stamford Bridge in a few weeks' time.
There's a young lad as well that I know has been training with the first team for a fair while, a few times a week, an attacking player, Ben Broggio. I know he's been training with the first team, so I was expecting to see him on the bench at some point as well, because I believe he's trained with the first team a high number of times, and that Villa are really keen on him and think he's going to be a really really good player. But that's what I mean. I don't know whether the under-21s, under-18s, whatever, have had a game this weekend, and that they maybe think it's better for them to be involved playing in that game and playing 90 minutes than it is for them to sit on the bench for 90. But you would think there's a space for someone in an attacking sense from the academy, and you're right, I think he probably would have been Kellyman. But if Broggio has been training with the first team like I believe he has, then no harm in really having him on the bench, even if he has played the day before or something, and just get him along for the experience. Have you heard the same about him training with the first team and seeing much of him in the under-21?
Yeah, there's a few that have been trained with the first team. They do these 11v11 practices, and it will involve mix of 21 and first team as well. And there's a few players that have been playing alongside, young under 21 players been playing alongside Douglas Luiz or Boubacar Kamara, and they've equipped themselves quite well. So I'm surprised. And you see these young academy lads. Sometimes it's okay for them to be on the bench for 1 week and not play for the under-21s because it's just general experience. And if they can easily play the day after, getting 10 minutes with the first team. So I don't really see the broader issues, but it's fundamentally comes down to Emery and being fully convinced of these players before even selecting them in the squad.
In fairness, look, Unai Emery knows better than me. I'm not here to argue with Unai Emery. I absolutely love the man. I want him to be at Villa forever, and he's absolutely transformed the club. But it's worth talking about these things and just speculating and seeing what we can come up with and seeing if there is that option there, because Villa haven't had an academy player come through properly for a long. Well, Jacob Ramsey. But even before that, he was Grealish. Before that, he was Gabby. And really, to say that Andre Green fleetingly made it, I would say, but really, Villa haven't had a lot of academy players come through and get into the first team over the last 10, 15 years. And it's something for me I would be desperate to see. I'd really like to see it. Maybe Archer or Ramsey would have done, or Philogene, but they've been sold off, although Philogene's doing really well at Hull. It's worth saying. I'd have liked us to have kept him for the sake of 5 million, but I understand why we've done it. But is it January-wise, is it still the same kind of word on the street that not much is going to happen? The Chambers stuff's interesting, obviously, because that maybe would give them a chance to change something.
Yeah, I think you need to get Callum Chambers and Bertrand Traore out first, and then you can even consider if Villa wish to sign anybody. Bertrand Traore is the interesting one because he's always in.
The same every year.
He's injured for Villa, but as soon as Burkina Faso gives him a call up, he's fully fit, he's captain, he's ready to go. And I think that's caused a few irritations within Villa. So he obviously his contract runs at the end of the season. It'd be good for him to get off the wage bill now, but he's over obviously in the AFCON, so get him
no chance.
Engineering a move. He's probably just going to sit on it, isn't he? Frustratingly for Emery, and in terms of allowing there to be a room in the squad to possibly bring someone in.
In fairness, he did score 2 very important goals last season when I thought he was finished at Villa. So I'm not going to knock him too much because we wouldn't have qualified for Europe without him. But it is frustrating because every time he gets an international call-up, he's available. And then he comes back and he's injured again. It's the same pattern for like 3-4 years now with Bertrand Traore. It's absolutely bizarre, but he's obviously gone off to AFCON. That's what he wants to do. Wants to represent his country, but there's absolutely no chance he'll be getting a new contract and staying at Villa. He'll be off the wage bill. I'd imagine he's on relatively high wages, Bertrand Traore. So it'd be good to free them up and then get the number 9 shirt to someone. No good number 9, but for a long time either. You know, I know Ings was a decent number 9 in fairness, but it looks like he's going to be on the move again in January, not getting any football at West Ham, but we haven't had a good number 9 for a while. Either I'd like to see us give that number 9 shirt to someone deserving, because it feels like that's been a poor run of number 9s as well.
John Duran wants to be loved. Could you say to him in this season, say, John, come on, mate, stop changing the bio on Instagram. I'll give you the number 9 shirt and you can be, feel a bit more loved. But I don't think squad numbers nowadays really mean too much, but It would be nice, just from a marketing perspective, if Chris Heck's interested in that, to have a proper number 9.
Number 9 Heck, he'll probably get, won't he give himself the number 9 shirt at the moment. What we're talking about, Duran, we obviously spoke about it quite a lot last week, but it's quietened down. He does feel like the opposite of Zaniolo. I feel like he is getting more minutes now, Duran, and we're coming on and we're playing 2 up top and whatnot.
Yeah, Emery at the start of the season was like, it would be very rare to see Watkins and Duran all play 2 up top. And in the last 3 or 4 games, maybe even further, he's actually played both of them because he sees it's quite a conducive route. And actually, they do, because John Duran's so impressive. He's got like this basketball type physique. He's actually causing a few issues inside the box now, even if he's not the most finesse. He just gets around, doesn't he? Just causes some trouble. We saw that for winning a penalty, and in either game as well. Even Bournemouth away, stretching that far back. So I think he's doing well, John Duran. But there's always that. I think he needs to really focus. There's a lot of noise around him, around his camp, and that's where all these stories do come into the press and stuff like that. But he just needs to settle, and he's getting a lot of game time. His development's going well. He's on the right path, and maybe giving him the number 9 shirt at the end of the season, really believing in him. And I think he's got a big future if he just stays level-headed.
Yeah, needs to stay focused, doesn't he? I think we've probably done all we can do. It wasn't the most exciting game to come on and do a podcast on the Monday and talk about. I know you've got to go as well, so I was late this morning. Full disclosure, we started later than we should have done. My apologies, but yeah, Jacob's off to the bright lights of London, so got the hiccups. Thank you very much for joining me today. Always appreciate it. And last week's pod did so well, so it's brilliant to have you on again. And yeah, any articles you want to talk about? You've done your Kamara one that came out just before we came on and did this pod. Anything else coming this week?
Obviously we had the FAP piece last week. That was good.
That was explained really well as well.
That was long awaited. And there's a few. I'm going to London today to speak to some of Every Conte's old teachers and colleagues at Charlton. So that should be fun. That should be out in a few weeks. And I interviewed Jaden Philogene as well.
Yeah.
I went to Hull's training ground a few weeks ago, pre-injury, but that will be out in the next couple of weeks. He's a very interesting character, and it's good to sit down with him.
Interesting, right? Look forward to that read. Now I'm going to go straight now and read your Kamara piece, Jacob. So again, thank you for joining me. Thanks to everyone that's tuning in as well. We really appreciate all the listeners and viewers. The numbers are growing. It's brilliant to see, and yeah, fantastic. And thanks for all the support you give me on all of my individual stuff as well. That's always appreciated, and I wouldn't be doing this stuff if it wasn't for people supporting this channel. So thank you very much for all the support over the years. What's going on? It's break now, isn't it? I don't think there'll be much content. We'll maybe knock out a podcast next week on Monday, but obviously there'll be no match preview and whatnot because there is no game this weekend because the players are probably all on holiday in Dubai, I'm going to imagine. So yeah, thanks ever so much for watching and listening. And as always, up the Villa.